This video is made possible by the lovely people over on my Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel or you want to get your hands on some awesome high quality STLs, then please visit patreon.com/Will at Heroic Studios. Now I know in my previous video I said that Lightspeed Rescue was probably one of the most underrated seasons in the original Saban era. I don't think I was telling the truth at that point. It is one of the underrated seasons, but I think the underdog going forward before that was actually Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Now I didn't watch Lost Galaxy in the beginning because I thought it was over. I mean, Power Rangers in Space was the finale. It was supposed to be it, which is why Zordon was destroyed. Everyone knew who the Power Rangers were. That was it. And because In Space kind of revitalized the franchise at that point, just going all out with all of the episodes and the storytelling and the Zords, as well as the finale of that season, which was super explosive. I didn't think that we were going to be getting any more Power Rangers after that, but I was wrong, because that following year they announced Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, and I'm sad to say that I didn't really watch this season until well after it aired, mainly reruns throughout, Fox Kids afternoons and sometimes on Saturday mornings and stuff like that. I wasn't really following it, so just like all the other Power Ranger stuff that I've been doing and kind of collaborating on, I went back and watched all of Lost Galaxy, and I have to say, not a bad job. Not a bad job. There was a little bit confusion there with the whole Z-Wave thing destroying all the evil in the universe. There were some theories floating around out there that the Z-Wave only affected our galaxy, and Miranoi, where the Quasar Sabers are, a different galaxy, and so on and so forth. I don't know. Don't really know. But Lost Galaxy wasn't all bad. Okay, it was actually really good. I liked it. But a whole takeaway from that entire season would have to be the Magna Defender. This guy has a story to tell. He's edgy. He's badass. He's more like the anti-hero of the season. And even though later on Leo's brother assumes the power of the Magna Defender, when I saw him coming in with this saber gun thing, I knew that I had to make this thing. And so that's what I did. So I'm going to take you guys through this video, and I'm going to show you exactly how I designed this Magna Defenders blaster. And yes, it does transform from a saber to a blaster. And I'm going to show you exactly how I designed it and show you exactly how I built it. So let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, this entire design has about 20 parts to it, and I'm not going to go through each and every part. Most of it is self-explainable, but I need to show off these friction gears that I needed to actually make in order for this to actually work. Now, the most important part that makes this thing work is this friction gear and tab system that I have here, and this was not my idea. This was actually shown to me by an awesome friend of mine named Exnihilo Prince. I really don't know how to pronounce his Patreon or his bro. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but he does have a cool Patreon. Go check him out. He does a lot of cool props and stuff, really great quality and stuff like that. If you're into Zelda props, go check him out. He's really cool. So he just started his Patreon. You can also find him on Cults, Printables, Thingiverse. All the links to his stuff will be in the description, but seriously, go check him out. Really brilliant dude. So this is this friction gear, and as you can see, the tabs here, they will deflect inward every time this gear is actually moved. So this main gear is screwed down into the central part of the handle, where this is actually glued into the main rotating handle. So whenever this section moves, you're going to get a clickety clackety kind of feel to it that kind of locks into place every time you move. But to kind of further hold it in place, you have magnet holes along the edge of both the internal handle as well as the outside handle. These are using 10 by 2 millimeter magnets, and that is to create tension in this top section of the handle so that this part and your tabs are in constant connection. If there's no tension, you're not going to get the clickety clackety kind of feeling and motion that is required in order for this thing to stay in place when you are actually transforming it from sword to gun and vice versa. So that is super important, and this is like the bread and butter, this system right here. And going forward with any type of transforming weapons that I'll be designing, I will be using this system here. Might be bigger, might be smaller, but it is very effective. Another thing that I decided to do was actually move away from using a lot of glue and opting in to use more or less screws. So you will notice that along here, there are screw holes to kind of screw these handles together, along with the rotating horn, which I'm going to get to in a second. You can see the screw holes there. The rotating horn is nothing but a friction insert, and you can turn it about its axes to go from sword mode to gun mode. It's very, very tight. You insert it and you rotate it over and under. Rotate it, axes. Simply you rotate it just like that, 180 degrees, and you have your trigger guard. So the way this works, and this was actually a very, very difficult part to actually figure out, was how do you rotate the handle without any mechanisms and also move it. So this is why this is kind of a 3-part system here. The internal part is the part that is going to be moving, whereas the handle is going to stay still. Now, this is all relative to whatever part you're moving. Doesn't really matter which part works. The only thing that matters is that the blade, which goes all the way down, needs to remain at a 90-degree angle. So in retrospect, you're actually changing the handles here when you rotate everything. So we rotate the handle, and as you can see, the circle that the horn is going to be inserted in moves, and the main circle doesn't. This acts as a sort of bridge to fully rotate your horn all the way over to where it needs to be. Now, if we were to take, you will notice that this isn't a full circle. It's designed to fit into the nubs that rotate with the arm. Okay, super friction, super tight. You should not have any issues getting that in there. And that is that. As for the blade, with the blade, this goes all the way through, but I've also set it up to where you can actually screw it down with screws. This will give the blade a bit of a more of a support here, as well as some carbon fiber rods, 5 millimeters long, that can fit right here and go all the way up through the top of the blade. There's also a key and slot system that you can go ahead and do it really tight. I've adjusted the tolerance just enough to where you can get it in there and not have to use any type of glue to glue it down. Now, you can use glue if you want to, that's entirely up to you. But in this case, the sword is really tight, you won't need to do that. So you can just assemble it as is, fill in the seams and cracks with whatever filler you decide to use, and go ahead and color your blade that way. So I'm making it real easy. I'm trying to move away from using a lot of glue, and it's messy. And then if you need to take it apart and do all that stuff, it's a lot of work. Another reason why I did that is because these friction gears, at some point, they're going to run down a little bit. They're going to get probably worn down in terms of overusage and how they've been used and all that fun stuff. So I wanted to be able to where you can take this thing apart and actually replace the gears, print out new parts, and then put them back together. Given that the tabs in the gears, yes, they're glued down, but you don't have to worry about that. They're designed to where you can use it for a long time before you even have to do that. So there was no way to actually use this and screw it down because of how it's designed. So you do have to glue this in the internal part of the handle, but other than that, that is a-okay. Now, let's talk about the spring trigger. This is a trigger that does go in and out. You insert a rod in here, and then underneath you can go ahead and insert a spring that will fit snugly in here, and the trigger has a peg that will be able to house the spring. So with this axis here, you should be able to trigger, go ahead and use that to, you know, move the trigger around. It'll go in and out on everything else. So that is the overall design of the blade. Now we got to talk about the sheath. The sheath is what's really the surprise here. A lot of people, yeah, my thing is really big, but like I said, you can go ahead and scale this down to whatever size you want. The sheath is printed in parts, and you can go ahead and again use hardware to basically screw this down. You don't have to use anything like glue to glue this together. Really straightforward. You have your support arm here for the horn that doesn't rotate, and then you have your pump, which does move up and down on this T-track here. Very easy stuff, simple. You would need to put the pump on before you go ahead and screw this down, or you can just forego the pump. That's entirely up to you. But that is the Magna Defenders design for the Saber Blaster, Sword Blaster. I don't really know what he calls it. But that is the design. So now I'm going to take you down to my workshop, and I'm going to put it together for you and show you exactly how to do all this. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by me, as well as my lovely patrons on Patreon. I have just did a whole revamp of my entire Patreon as far as the welcome gifts. So if you are interested in building this morpher and joining Patreon only live stream, live tutorials, and all that fun stuff, consider checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/Will@Heroic Studios. The welcome gift is everything you see right here on the screen. Gold Ranger armor, Green Ranger armor, my original power morpher, and a lot more. But not only that, but I do have 3-month, 6-month, and 9-month loyalty rewards. So the longer you're on board, the more cool stuff you get, not to mention the current month's rewards that will be going on during that time, plus legacy rewards. I have a lot of stuff that I'm giving away, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So go ahead and check out my Patreon. I'm doing a lot of cool stuff. All right, now let's get into how this morpher was designed.
I just had a little piece fall off from the rotating arm, but I feel like that this would actually make it better. So if you pull this out, that part broke out from here, so it's now like basic half circle. But when you put the horn on and you rotate it, it's much smoother. So the way it's designed is that it's relative to the sword. When you sheath it, and I keep saying this, when you sheath your sword, the blade is going to stay at a 90 degree, and the outermost parts, the part here and the part here, those are going to be the ones that rotate. So we've added the new parts to it. Let's see if it works. Okay, so that rotated nicely. Your trigger is going to go here. Now let's rotate the main arm. There you go. So now imagine you have your sheath on, right? It's basically going to be in gun mode that way. So your gun, you got your trigger, your gun is coming out this way, you're holding it, and you have your arm that's going to be pulled by the sheath. So mine is kind of big, and I'm actually debating whether or not I want to go ahead and make it smaller, because turn it back in sword mode, rotate it back. Rotate it up. Like it's pretty big, and like I said, I'm a big guy, so this thing, it feels good in my hand, but when you have the whole blade together, I feel like that this is going to be ginormous. And you know what? I'm actually here for it. I think I'm just going to finish making this blade the way it is, and then go ahead and maybe make another one, because this is just a prototype. So yeah, Now we're going to be building the blade. I have to cut it up and add some keys. It's going to be held by 2 carbon fiber rods on the outside, as well as a key and a hole in the center of the blade. That blade will also be screwed down via these holes here. I don't know if you can see that, but there are holes. There you go. There are holes here, 1, 2, 3, that's going to screw into the blade to make sure that that blade doesn't move, because since we're dealing with swords, it gets a little wobbly. So this mounting system here, combined with the snugness of this cutout, plus the carbon fiber rods, should give the blade a pretty good stability in there when it comes to it. Because this thing is about to be huge. But all in all, phase 1 feels like it works. It looks good. It does what it's supposed to do relatively well. We have our gun. We have our gun mode. And I think for that, I'm pretty happy with it. So on to part 2. Now I did have a small little accident. As I was putting together the sword here, the middle section that holds this blade, it fell. So I didn't want to reprint it. But if you don't believe that I had this thing fully assembled, here's some pictures of the fully assembled blade, and here's some video of me holding it. So I tried to re-cure it back on. I tried to glue it. I tried to PLA rod it. It just wasn't doing it. So another reason why maybe you should go ahead and pick up, you can't really see it, there are small holes on either side of the key. That's right here. That allow you to pick up 5mm by 200mm carbon fiber rods and keep this thing in place. So that would have been one way for me to fix this thing. But as you can see, this thing looks good, especially with the jewel and stuff inside it right here. So I'm glad to figure out a way to fix that, because this is definitely going on my wall. So here's the sheath. I printed all the parts out, well, not all the parts, most of the parts, to show off what this thing is, and it is actually pretty big. As you can see, I keep saying it, I've reduced the use of glue by being able to include screw holes on either side to keep this thing together. Now, this thing is solid. There is a pump that you can also print that goes right here, and it does follow along this T-line that's right here, as well as the arm to hold the other horn when it's in gun mode that inserts itself right here. Now, this thing is ginormous, as you can see, but it's very sturdy and it looks great and really easy to just put together and half, I suppose. I don't know why it took so long to say that. Now, the sword does slide in nicely, but if you would like, I've made an option to where inside of the sheath where you have these 2 pickup holes, you can add some gaskets, some foam to make the sword kind of more snug inside of this sheath here. So that way it's not flopping around as much. There is a little bit of tolerances in there that allows it to do that, but you can go ahead and put some foam in there and have it do its own thing to where it's snug and it doesn't cymbal around and stuff like that. But that is it. Alright, so the moment you guys have all been waiting for, transforming this from sword mode over into gun mode. So this part right here, like I said before, it is a friction joint. My horn was not the updated part. I did this later on once I discovered that this thing was too loose. So yes, it's going to fall out probably as we transform it. But concept is there. Rotate your horn all the way over. And then when your sword is in there, it needs to stay at 90 degrees. Go ahead and just rotate the entire body just like that. Okay? All the gears are in here. Everything that you need is ready to go. Make sure that you are inserting the magnets inside of this part, just like I discussed earlier, because that's going to help create tension, keeping those gears stuck together, right? And to change it back, same thing, just move it back like that, make sure everything is aligned, and then rotate the horn all the way back around. Just like that. You know, I might just go ahead and make that. I really want this to be 100%. But that is it. That is how this thing is supposed to work. Looks great. I'm happy with it. So, yeah. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. As you can see, compared to my body size,
This thing is huge. So you can go ahead and scale it down to fit whatever desired body type you are. If you want it bigger, if you want it smaller, it's entirely up to you guys. But I'm happy with this bad boy. This thing is actually really good. So if you guys like the video, if you want to see more of my builds, these are all original designs by me. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, send me some comments. Let me know what you guys think about this design. This will be modified, ongoing, so I find out new ideas and new things that I can make things better with. But until the meantime, you can find these files over on my Patreon, patreon.com/WillAtWork Speaking of patrons, here's a shout out to all my patrons, new and paid members. New paid members. Yeah, that right there. So go ahead, check me out. It's really fun doing these things, and I got a lot more cool original designs that I'm going to be putting together. So go ahead, check me out. Hope to see you guys over there. Until next time, I am the Magna Defenders. No, they like that one. I am the Magna Defenders. No, they didn't want to do that. I am the Magna Defenders. Yeah, I have a husky voice like, I am the Magna Defenders.